Hi YouTube friends, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. I'm an herbalist, one of my favorite things to do, and today I've been harvesting herbs, and I thought I would hop on here and just talk with you real fast about when to harvest your herbs, because there are some things you need to know to properly harvest your herbs, you know, at certain specific times and depending on the plant part. So here I've got some comfrey leaves. Now comfrey grows all summer long and you can harvest it throughout the summer, but as you can see, I've got leaves here. And when you're harvesting leaves, generally speaking, or aerial parts, we also call them in the herbal world, you want to harvest them when there's no dew, all right, so midday or so. And you can harvest them throughout the growing season depending on the plant. So like with yarrow or with lemon balm here, which are these are also the aerial parts, you can go ahead and do continual harvests of a lot of these different kinds of plants. Other plants, like flowers, for example, you're going to harvest those generally in the morning, and you're going to harvest them when they're ready to go. And flowers bloom at different times during the season, spring, summer, and fall, depending on the plant. So here, I just harvested some hops flowers this morning. Aren't they beautiful? And I've actually been cycling, like hops kind of get ready throughout the summer. And so as they get ready, because you want them when they're in this beautiful, you know, lovely green state, is the best time to pick them. So these kinds of flowers I can actually harvest on an ongoing basis throughout the summer, where other kinds of flowers like violets or hawthorn flowers, for example, there's a real short window of time to harvest those. So you just need to know when those flowers bloom and when it's good to go out and get them. Let's go ahead and talk about harvesting roots. Some plants, like comfrey, for example, or like burdock or dandelion, they will give us beautiful roots that can serve medicinally, various medicinal purposes. So there's different ways you want to harvest your roots. If it's an annual root, then you're going to want to harvest that root at any point during their growing time. So an annual is a plant that lives and dies in one season. So you can just be harvesting that root at any point that you like. A biennial root is a plant that has a 2-year grow period. So a plant like burdock, for example, you would want to harvest their roots in the first year. The fall of the first year's growth is the best time to harvest a biennial plant. And then if you've got a perennial plant like a dandelion, you can harvest those roots spring, summer, and fall. But generally you're going to want to do a little research on the chemistry of the roots. So like for dandelion roots, for example, you're going to want to harvest them in the spring, the summer, or the fall. And personally, I prefer the spring or the fall. And if you want a very strong liver loving herb, I prefer the fall. If you want the root for the digestive system, I prefer the spring harvest of the roots. So it just kind of depends on, you know, the plant itself and what you want to use it for. So you will have to do a little research on some of these plants, or ask an herbalist who is familiar with the plants. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next category of plant parts. All right, so far we've talked about harvesting flowers, we've talked about harvesting aerial parts like leaves, and we've talked about harvesting plant roots. Let's go ahead and we're going to talk about harvesting the fruits or the seeds of plants. So after a plant flowers and goes through that cycle, what ends up happening is a fruit emerges, or sometimes just seeds. It depends on the plant. The fruits and the seeds you're going to want to harvest when they become ripe. So for example, I have tons of sunflowers out here in my garden, and I've been anxiously watching them, waiting for the perfect time to cut the heads off of those sunflower plants and let them start to dry out. And we're almost there. So for sunflower seeds, you just need to watch them and know when they're mature enough, and that way you can go ahead and cut the plant and then let the seeds dry, and then they'll drop out. So that's one example of harvesting seeds. Other examples are are like corn, which is a grain. What you're harvesting there is the seed, and you're eating that. With fruit, let's talk about rose hips, for example. Rose hips are one of my favorites that I wait anxiously for all summer long and into the fall to be ready. So with most fruits, you want to pick them when they're ripe, right? Like apples or hawthorn berries, which have a kind of a short harvest window. So you wait for them to get ripe and you pick them, generally just one by hand. Other fruits like rose hips, they might stay on the plant for an extended period of time, and they might actually be better if you pick them and harvest them after like the first freeze, which is when you do rose hips. So you can see there's a whole lot of different plant parts, and there's a whole lot of different ways to harvest them. And basically you just need to know a little bit about the plant that you're working with. So most plants follow those general rules, some don't. So be sure to do a little bit of research, and you can reach out to me and ask if you like. But I love harvesting my plants all throughout the year. Even some are even harvestable in the wintertime. Usnea, for example, which is a lichen, it actually is wonderful to harvest in the winter time. It's done with its growth period of the summer, and it's kind of gone dormant, and it's really beautiful to harvest that little lichen in the winter time, especially if there's been a storm and you can manage to pick some up off the snow. But anyway, thank you for watching this. This was a quick little video on when to harvest different plant parts. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love for you to pick up my herbal remedy guide with the cheat sheet, or my book, How to Relax Using Herbs and Oils. Those are both gifts. You can have both or either or. And I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. So I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. That's my website. There's hundreds of articles over there, and I would love to have you join my community. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.